Chapter 31. Isabella and Kotarian gathered the group in a circle and chanted. When they finished, Bach's companions didn't appear any different. But when he looked closely at his own body, it shimmered slightly, as if his eyes were out of focus. Kotarian explained, "To those outside the spell, we will appear as Mosok soldiers. We need to move quickly, however. Gurmarian's generative guise will only last for 15 minutes, 20 at the most." The group split in two and headed in opposite directions. "Your horses and things are right over here." Umra pointed toward the stables. "Oh, Rajalair thinks you're still tied up back there." "Yes, for now," Isabella said. "But if he discovers we are free, the Masorks shall lock down the camp. We need to get far away from here before that happens." They stepped out of the hut, Umra in the lead. "'S all clear," she called back after making sure no additional guards loitered around the hut's entrance. They walked in a straight line toward the stables, passing Masork soldiers, as well as family members, camp servants, and various hangers-on. Some were working. Cooks prepared meals, armorers sharpened swords, but most of the crew seemed content to drink, gamble, and gossip. Impromptu shoving matches and belching contests broke out across the patchy grass field. Bach had never seen anything quite like it. The whole camp seemed to be a hornet's nest of heavily armed, intoxicated, and unsupervised criminals. Bach took a deep breath and shook loose his wrists, which still hurt from where he had been bound. Act natural and call no attention to yourself. That plan lasted all of 30 seconds. "Hold it right there!" A voice boomed behind them, and they all stopped. Bach's heart raced. Even with Isabella and Kotarian's magic, plus Wingate's sword arm, fighting their way through this mob would be suicidal. They turned to see a single Masork marauder, thumbs tucked in the waist of his pants and a giant grin on his face. And it was directed at Isabella. "Don't walk away so fast. Are you new? I know I would remember your face." Color rose in Isabella's cheeks. "Well, I actually—" Isabella's formal speech patterns would give her away if she said too much. "Yeah, she's new, and I'm showing her around," Buck interjected. "Maybe I want to show her around. Who are you, anyway?" The marauder slid his hand down to the knife tucked into the top of his tight pink and black trousers. Bach considered his words carefully, knowing the wrong response could bring the entire camp down upon them. He also noticed Aventil's coiled posture. But before anything could happen, Wingate stepped beside Bach, hands empty but powerful arms crossed. The marauder eyed the mountainous guardian. Although he had a weapon and Wingate didn't, the Masork took the first step back. He frowned and backed away. "This isn't over. I'll see you again, when you don't have your giant friend to help." "Not if I can help it," the man continued to glare, but let them continue on their way. "I'm sorry to interrupt you," Bach told Isabella once they were out of earshot from the marauder. "It's just—" "No, I am pleased you did. I can fend off suitors at the royal palace with practiced ease, but a shirtless cutthroat is beyond my training, Bach." "We're almost there." Umra pointed to the stables. Well guarded, the lean-to sentries faced the perimeter of the camp, expecting trouble to come from the outside. They didn't realize their apparent colleagues instead were Raja Lair's prisoners under a magical disguise. Still, one of the guards scowled at the people moving horses and equipment from under his watch. "What are you doing? Who sent ya?" The captain sent us to bring the prisoners' horses and things," Umra promptly replied in a voice completely unlike her Nassim-born serving class accent. The glorious Raja Lair wanted him to see if there's anything we could use for ourselves." At the mention of their leader's name, the guard's posture stiffened. "Oh, carry on then." He walked outside, giving the group free run of the stables. Bach's face lit up. That was great, Umra. You had them completely convinced. She cackled. I've had to talk my way out of a few jams. I'll tell you about 'em over a glass when we get back to Ithanel. They quickly collected their belongings and unhitched their horses. Bach sighed in relief to find Becky not only unharmed, but also well fed and with fresh water. Masork marauders may be ruthless warriors and bandits, but they clearly care for their animals. Wingate helped Corrigan onto his horse, and they navigated their way through the campsite and back to the trail, just as the spell wore off. They raced through the pine forest, back the way they came. Hooves clomped down the narrow trail worn through the woods by centuries of travel. The sticky, humid air clung to Bach's already sweaty clothes. Isabella urged her horse forward. Only a few more miles to the border. Then we can return to Ithanel and find Tavano. They had not ridden 5 minutes, though, when the sound of hooves echoed behind them, faint but growing louder. Blast! They must have discovered our absence, Kotarian moaned. Karagian drew his sword. No sense in running. We'd never get back to Imarina before they catch us. Isabella slowed her horse to a halt. Then we make a stand. Aventil chose an arrow, while Kotarian prepared a spell. Not sure what to do, Bach ready to push pull spell and watched as the cloud of dust moved closer. Within less than a minute, the dust cloud became a Masork raiding party, and this time, Raja Lair led the group. Ho ho, little princess! He called his group of a dozen soldiers to a halt just yards away from the Imarinian group. Our camp is back this way. He jabbed his finger over his shoulder. Fortunately, Wenebo Pran was able to track ya. A man with long, grain, but still pink and black streaked hair and a matching wild beard nodded. Kotarian cracked his knuckles. Wenebo Pran, you are a sorcerer of some repute. Of course, everything I've been taught has turned out a lie. Perhaps your reputation will be as well. Your spell signature tells me you are Kotarian, acolyte of the Emerinian House of Magic, the raspy-voiced man replied. But I do not know your reputation. You will, Masork. Kotarian's hand crackled with blue-green mystical force. Seemingly from nowhere, a strong wind began to gust at Bach's back, and the skies around them darkened. Hurricane gusts blew at Bach's back, nearly knocking him to the ground. Let's see how these Masork ruffians like Kalian's calamitous cloudburst. Kotarian moved his arms back and forth to gather strength for the storm. On the other side of the standoff, Wenebo Pran calmly spoke similar words and conjured his own version of a contained storm. Whether it was as strong as the one Kotarian had prepared seemed irrelevant. At this short distance, it would be more than sufficient to blow away Bach and his friends. The storms kicked up golden-brown pine needles from the forest floor and whipped them into the air. Skinny trees swayed violently. Bach's eyes moved from Kotarian to Wenebo Pran and back. The two sorcerers engaged in a deadly staring contest, each waiting for the other to cross an imperceptible threshold before they unleashed their destructive spell. Kotarian, please, Bach insisted. Don't make this any worse than it already is. My friend is correct, glorious Raja Lair, Isabella yelled over the sound of the gale. We share an enemy and a problem. If you allow us to stop the evildoers behind the blight, you will protect your people as well as ours. Raja Lair scratched his hairy belly absent-mindedly. Perhaps ye are telling the truth, but I have a squadron of Masork marauders behind me. If I allow you to leave, I risk losing face with them. Isabella gestured to the riders flanking the Masork warlord. Ask them then. They may understand that mercy can be wise and blind violence foolish. The warriors said nothing, but neither did they dispute what Isabella had said. At her signal, Kotarian slowly powered down his spell. Unebo Praeon did the same in response, although neither sorcerer ceased their spellcasting completely. Isabella continued. Now I will tell you something that shames me deeply. I told you a rogue group of Imerinian sorcerers is to blame for the blight. Well, we have discovered their leader is Salandrian, dean of our own House of Magic. One of my father's top advisors is behind this assault on both our nations. Unebo Prawn's eyes grew wide. Glorious Rejalair, I know this Salandrian. He is the keeper of Imerinia's magical knowledge. If he has turned against them, he poses a grave threat to your empire. Isabella jumped in. If the blight is such a threat, why not allow us to risk our lives, instead of Masork ones, to stop it? Or the blight and those behind it may prove too dangerous for us to defeat. If so, your death sentence will be carried out. You win either way. Rejalair thought quietly for a long moment. No one on either side of the standoff dared to speak a word. Finally, he broke his silence. Very well, little princess. Had you slain any of my soldiers in your escape, I would have been forced to exact revenge. But you spared my sleeping guards who, despite their inept performance today, remain respected members of my mighty army. Go and fight these evil sorcerers, killing both our people. And little princess, I hope you win, for all our benefit.